All right, let's dive into one of the most profound and honestly puzzling stories from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. We're talking about the final moments of Lord Krishna's time on Earth. And trust me, it's a story packed with prophecy, shocking self-destruction, and a final twist that really changes how you look at the whole thing.
So, to really get this, you have to picture the scene. It's a moment of just absolute peace. Lord Krishna, his mission on Earth basically complete, is just relaxing under a pipala tree. The scriptures describe him as radiating this incredible divine light, illuminating everything around him like a smokeless fire. It's the very image of pure tranquility and power. And then, just like that, bam, that perfect serene picture is completely shattered. A hunter, a man named Jara, sees a glimmer in the distance. He thinks it's a deer, so he lets an arrow fly. And his aim is perfect. The arrow strikes its target, right in the Lord's foot.
And that right there, that's the big question, isn't it? How on earth could the Supreme Lord, the master of the entire universe, be taken down by a simple hunter's arrow? I mean, was this just some terrible, tragic accident? Or was there something way, way bigger going on here?
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, we've got to go back. We're going to look at a powerful curse and some eerie omens, a final pilgrimage that goes horribly wrong, a clan's total self-destruction, and then a final act of forgiveness that, well, it explains everything.
Right. The thing is, this whole story, it doesn't really start with that hunter's arrow. Nope, it actually starts way before that, with a powerful curse that pretty much sealed the fate of his entire family line. So at the very heart of this whole thing is a Brahman's curse. It's a prophecy that basically said the Yadu Dynasty, Krishna's own people, were doomed to destroy themselves. So you see, it was never a question of if it would happen, just when.
And here's the thing, Krishna himself sees the writing on the wall. I mean, he sees all these terrible omens popping up, disturbances in the sky, strange things happening on the ground. He knows exactly what they mean. He recognizes them as a clear signal that the curse is about to come true.
So faced with all these terrifying signs, what does Krishna do? He doesn't panic. He actually comes up with a plan, and it's all centered around one last pilgrimage. He calls all the Yadu elders together and tells them they need to leave their city, Dwarka, right now. And he is not messing around. He's incredibly clear about the urgency here. He tells them these are signs from Yama, the Lord of Death, and they absolutely cannot stay there for even one more moment.
And honestly, the plan sounds perfect, right? It's really thoughtful. First, get the women, children, and the elderly to a safe place called Shankor Tara. Then all the men will journey to a holy site, Prabhasa, and there they'll perform all these rituals and acts of worship to try and ward off this terrible fate. It seems like a solid, pious plan. But, and this is the tragic irony of it all, this very pilgrimage, this journey that was supposed to save the dynasty, ends up being the very thing that destroys it.
And the whole thing just unravels incredibly fast. I mean, they start out doing exactly what they're supposed to, performing all the sacred rituals with real devotion. But then the text says they were deluded by destiny, and they start drinking this potent liquor. Their minds get all clouded, not just by the alcohol, but by Krishna's divine illusion, his Maya. Pride boils over into anger, and suddenly this massive, terrible fight just explodes among them.
And this is where you can really see the supernatural force at work. It's just wild. Once they run out of their normal weapons, they start grabbing these simple reeds growing by the shore. But the second they grab them, poof, they transform into iron clubs, as hard as thunderbolts. It's like the curse itself is handing them the weapons they need to destroy each other.
So you gotta understand, this wasn't just a battle. This was a complete and total meltdown of their entire society. We're talking sons fighting their own fathers, brothers fighting brothers. Every single bond of family and friendship just evaporated in this wave of divinely fueled drunken violence. It continued until the entire Yadu dynasty was just gone.
And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. The entire Yadav clan is gone. Krishna is sitting alone under that tree. And now, the hunter Jara appears on the scene, having just shot that arrow, and he is absolutely terrified by what he's just done.
The moment Jara sees the Lord's four-armed form, he realizes the catastrophic mistake he's made. He just collapses at Krishna's feet, shaking with fear, and begs for forgiveness.
He's pleading, saying he committed this horrible, sinful act without knowing who he was aiming at.
And Krishna's reply is just amazing. You'd expect him to be angry, to punish him, right? But no, not at all. He tells Jara, "Don't be afraid, get up." Then he reveals that this wasn't an accident. He says this happened by my own arrangement. And then, not only does he forgive Jara, he grants him a one-way ticket straight to the heavenly realm.
And it's in this final act of grace, this forgiveness, that the real point of this whole epic story becomes crystal clear. Absolutely nothing that happened, not the curse, not the massive brawl, not even the hunter's arrow, was an accident. You see, when Krishna looks at what's happened, he doesn't see a tragedy. He sees a mission accomplished. He thinks to himself, the burden of the earth has now been completely removed. His own super-powerful clan, who nobody else could have defeated, they were the final piece of that burden. Wiping them out was the last step. And the hunter's arrow? That was just the prearranged exit strategy for his own departure. It was all part of the divine plan.
So after all the dust settled, after all that insane fighting, how many were left standing? Just one. Krishna himself. His mission was complete. He had orchestrated the end of his own people as the grand finale of his time on Earth.
So we end up right back where we started, but now we're looking at it completely differently, right? What seemed like a horrible, tragic accident at first turns out to be this incredible story of divine will, of a mission perfectly completed. And it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? It forces you to ask, what if the chaos we see in the world is just one small part of a much bigger, more perfect plan we just can't see?
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We are closing the book today on what is arguably the most magnificent era in cosmic history, the time when the Supreme Lord walked the earth. We've tracked the building of Dwaraka, the Great Wars, the triumph of justice, but today we confront the inevitable, the end. We're diving into the really dramatic conclusion of the Yadu Dynasty, guided by those ultimate questions posed by the original seeker, King Pardikit.
It really is a profound inquiry, isn't it? What happens when divine purpose is fully realized? Our source material gives us this incredibly detailed narrative of the final act.
Yeah.
The specific divine instructions, the tragic self-destruction of Kinesis' own lineage, and then those quiet, tranquil moments of his final departure.
Yeah, and Park's curiosity, it wasn't just historical, it was deeply philosophical. He had these two central questions that, they just grip you immediately. First, knowing the end was coming, what did Lord Shuka describe right there in the text as the well-wisher of all living beings? What did he actually do in Dwaraka after his closest devotee, Uddhava, left to the forest? Uddhava knew, right? He left, knowing the city was doomed. But what was Kensa's plan then, for everyone else?
Exactly. And the second question, that's what the great paradox comes in. How did the Lord, who was the most beloved of all eyes, his presence was beauty and joy, how did he then just abandon that transcendental form? Especially since his entire dynasty, his own family, had been wiped out by what the text specifically called the curse of Brahma.
Right.
And this curse, it wasn't just, some random misfortune. It was a cosmic closure point. It was meant to ensure the Yadus, who had fulfilled their role, didn't stick around and become, another burden on the earth.
That's the core conflict we're tracing today, isn't it? That tension between a preordained curse and the will of the Lord. So our deep dive, our mission, is to track the minute details of the sequence, showing how that curse became the perfect mechanism for the complete removal of the burden of the earth.
It's really an examination of fate, this irresistible illusion, Maya, and the supreme plan all working together.
So the moment Uddhava leaves, it's like the clock starts ticking audibly. Kena doesn't wait. He sees the signals instantly. We find him assembled in the Sudharma Hall, the hall meant for orderly governance, but outside, everything's falling apart. The sources say Lord Kena observed Mahapatan, these really dreadful omens appearing everywhere, heavens, earth, sky.
Yeah, and these weren't subtle signs, like a bad feeling or a local storm. These were universal signals of cosmic imbalance. Kenta immediately recognized them as Yamakatava, the actual banners of the god of death. It meant imminent, unstoppable destruction. So the response, immediate, urgent. He commanded the leaders of the Yadus, the Yadu Pugavo, to leave Dwaraka instantly. The text says they shouldn't remain even for a moment. That urgency, it suggests time was just up. The appointed end couldn't be delayed.
So he basically orchestrates this mass exodus. And he splits them up, right? He sends the non-combatants, women, children, the elderly off to Sukhadara, somewhere relatively safe.
Right. But the adult population, the warriors, the ones who were really the source of that pride and rivalry, the martial power that needed containing, he directed them to Pravasa. And that's crucial. Pravasa is a tirtha, a holy place. The Sarasvati River flows visibly there. The location choice was deliberate. It was meant for purification, for pilgrimage.
Okay, so it's not just get out of town. There's a spiritual dimension to the destination itself.
Absolutely. And the journey wasn't just about changing location. It came with very strict spiritual instructions. Kas told them to perform these comprehensive rituals of atonement, specifically to avert misfortune Aridna.
And what did those involve? Was it just prayer?
Oh no, it was exhaustive, really emphasizing humility and austerity. They were told to bathe, fast, worship the demigods with susamahita concentrated minds. And critically, the atonement demanded real generosity, performing auspicious ceremonies, svasthiyano, for the Brahmajas.
Right.
And the gifts had to be substantial, sacrificial, not just token gestures. Cows, land, gold, fine clothing, even elephants, horses, chariots, houses. It was a full-scale attempt to appease fate through piety and charity.
But wait a second. Kinsa is the Supreme Lord. He's the master of fate itself. So why command these meticulous rituals? Does that mean he has to work within karma's rules, or was this just a way to get them all together for the end?
That's exactly the profound question the text pushes us towards. Kinch uses this moment, yes, to instruct them, but also to remind them of the supreme duty. He frames it not just as, like, damage control, but as the highest auspiciousness, the greatest perfection of life, which he defines as worship of the demigods, the Brahmas, and cows, and seeing the Supreme Lord within all living beings.
Okay.
So by giving this instruction, he ensures they're assembled at the right place, Pravasa. They're purified, maybe just enough to really highlight how Maya works later, but ultimately, the destination, the outcome, was already set.
And they followed the instructions.
They did. The elder Yadus agreed, so be it, and they went off to Pravasa by boat, by chariot, and the text says they faithfully performed with deep devotion all the acts as instructed.
So they did the fasting, the charity, they honored the priests, followed Kaka's direction. You'd think the omens might lift, things might calm down, but the text says the exact opposite happens. A total, catastrophic internal breakdown.
They were prepared externally, sure, but internally that higher decree, the curse, had already laid the groundwork for delusion. Which brings us to the ultimate drama.
This is where it just pivots catastrophically, doesn't it? Despite doing those rituals with deep devotion, the Yadus immediately indulged in Mahapanam excessive drinking of this liquor called Mareya.
How do you go from spiritual austerity to, a massive drunken brawl almost instantly? This sudden shift, it's the clearest picture of divine illusion, Maya, in action. The text doesn't just say they got drunk. It gives us the two forces, these irresistible forces of destruction, working together. First, their intelligence was bewildered by destiny, that prior fate, the curse, it was manifesting now. Destiny acts like a blindfold, you could say.
So the external piety, the rituals they just did, it was immediately useless because their internal state was being driven by this higher, irreversible force, destiny.
Precisely. And second, there was the active power of illusion. They were simultaneously deluded by Lord Kent's illusory potency, Chami Machano.
Maya.
Yeah. And Maya here isn't just some abstract concept, it's an active psychological manipulation. Deployed by Kent, it seems, to ensure the end happens without him having to personally destroy his own family. It guaranteed that their internal flaws, their pride, the text calls it daptetasam, would just flare up under the influence of the Mayarea liquor, leading to this sudden, fierce, terrible quarrel.
And that intoxication, it's the perfect catalyst, isn't it? Strips away all the restraints, civilization, affection, gone. The result is immediate civil war, a massive deployment. Chariots, elephants, camels, men, using every weapon they had. Bows, swords, maces, lances.
The text says they fought like maddened elephants battling in the forest. It really emphasizes the total loss of control.
The sheer brutality. It's magnified because the aggression turns inward, towards their own blood.
Exactly. The tragedy is so personal, so shocking. The text lists specific relatives fighting each other. It wasn't just anonymous armies clashing.
No, like who?
Pradyumna and Samba, two of Kansa's own sons, fought, driven by envy Rusa Matsarao. Vakra and Bhoja fought Aniruddha and Satyaki. Even others like Gada, Sumitra, Astarata, just mutual killing.
What really stands out to me is that phrase about the absolute abandonment of affection, Vishya Suhodam. The text explicitly says sons fought fathers, brothers fought brothers, even brothers-in-law, grandsons, uncles, friends. They just abandoned all affection and killed each other. It reads like a checklist of every possible relationship being twisted into murderous rivalry. It just underscores Maya's power to flip reality itself, make love look like hate.
It's a complete societal collapse enforced by delusion. But the final, really gruesome mechanism involves the weapons. When their arrows and swords and things ran out, the Yadus, totally frenzied, they didn't stop. They grabbed the nearby reeds at a cock, just reeds growing on the shore.
And here it is, destiny closes the loop. These ordinary reeds immediately transformed into Vajrakalpa Parijite iron clubs as hard as thunderbolts.
Yes, this is the physical manifestation of the curse. The weaponized grass fulfilling the prophecy.
Incredible. And where did the power for that come from?
The source material is crystal clear. This transformation was due to the Lord's illusion. The prophecy had to be fulfilled using that original fragment of the iron club that was ground up and thrown into the sea. Can ensured that even the most mundane thing, a blade of grass, became a lethal iron club in the hands of the deluded.
And the fighting hits this ultimate horrific peak when the Yadus, in their madness, turn these new iron clubs on Kana and Balarama themselves. They actually tried to strike the lords who were trying to stop the fighting.
Yes, thinking they were enemies, aggressors. It's the final insult, really. And the absolute proof of their total delusion. It guarantees that the divine presence wouldn't sustain them anymore.
So what did Kana and Balarama do then?
Seeing that any attempt to save them was rejected by their own madness, Kana and Balarama then engaged. They struck down the remaining warriors with the same reeds or even their fists. The mutual destruction was total. The text uses that powerful image. Like fire generated by friction between bamboo stems burns the entire bamboo forest. The Yadus, like the bamboo, generated the friction, the rivalry, the pride, the drink that ultimately led to their fiery end.
Complete annihilation, witnessed only by Krishna and Balarama. And just like that, the violence stops. Kina is left alone on the shore.
And Kiran's immediate thought, right after seeing his entire dynasty wiped out, is key. He didn't lament the loss of life. He simply thought, the burden of the earth had now been completely removed.
The mission was complete.
Exactly. The removal of the earth's overwhelming population, the unrighteousness, done.
And Balarama, he departs first, right? How does that happen?
Balarama's departure is in absolute silence, a stark contrast to the chaos that just happened. He sat on the seashore, entered a perfect yogic trance yogam, astaya parum, and just merged into his own spiritual essence, departed the human world.
Wow, just peace through internal mastery.
Absolutely. And seeing Balarama's peaceful exit, Kina then prepared for his own. He sat silently, Dian, beneath a peepal tree, a banyan tree, knowing his time had come.
Okay, this is where it gets really fascinating, because Kenny doesn't just sit there like a weary man. He manifests his full, glorious, divine form for these final moments. The sources give us this incredible detailed description. This is really the learner's nugget for this section, a focused visualization of the departing Lord.
He manifested the Kadzbu Jarupai, the four-armed form, shining with his own divine brilliance. The text says it was illuminating all directions like a smokeless fire.
Smokeless fire, that image implies purity, power, immense spiritual heat, a direct contrast to the self-destructive smoky fire of the Yadu fight.
Precisely. Pristine. And the specifics of his appearance, they're stunning. It must have been an overwhelming vision.
Tell us, what did he look like?
Okay. His body was Ganashiman, dark blue like a fresh rain cloud, but it shone with the radiance of molten gold, Taptahaka Varkasam. He had the Kyuvatsa mark on his chest, the signature of the Supreme Lord, clad in fine yellow silk garments, draped with the Vanamala, that long forest garland reaching his knees.
And the adornments, they weren't just decorative, right? They signified something.
Sovereignty, majesty, the golden waistband, Kai Sutra, the sacred thread, the magnificent crown, and the famous Kaustuba gem.
And his face. The part Jara, the hunter, is about to mistake for a deer.
Yes, the text describes Sundarasmita Vaktrabja, a lotus-like face glowing with a gentle, enchanting smile, framed by dark, curling hair, his eyes like captivating lotus petals. And he wore those sparkling fish-shaped earrings, the Makara Kutalam, just the image of ultimate beauty and tranquility.
And his posture.
Not standing, seated gracefully, his right foot resting upon his left thigh. and surrounding him were his personified divine weapons, this radiant, peaceful form. That's the image the hunter's about to stumble upon.
Which brings us to that final, necessary act, the meeting between the Lord and the instrument of fate. Jara, the hunter, approaches, and the source is absolutely precise about the link between Jara's weapon and the Yadu destruction.
It's the ultimate piece of cosmic irony, isn't it? The text confirms Jara's arrowhead was made from a Musala Abaseya Kaincha fragment of that original iron club that caused the dynasty's end.
Wow.
The original cursed object, recycled as the instrument for the Lord's departure, destiny literally woven into the metal.
And then the simple fatal mistake. Jara sees Kaincha's reddish, lotus-like foot resting on his thigh.
It mistakes it for the mouth of a deer, Moshe Akaya. He shoots his arrow, piercing the Lord's foot.
What happens when Jara realizes what he's done?
Well, when he approaches, he immediately sees the magnificent four-armed form. He's instantly terrified. The realization of his great sin, his katakobia, just hits him like a thunderbolt. He falls down, bowing his head in complete remorse.
And his plea is crucial, right? Because it shifts the blame away from malice towards illusion.
Exactly. He immediately confesses, "I did this unknowingly, Ajanata." He begs for forgiveness from the Uttama Shloka, the Lord prays in choice verses.
And his fear then turns into this profound philosophical statement.
It does. Jara, this simple hunter, argues he couldn't recognize the Lord because his vision was inherently limited. He points out that even great cosmic figures like Brahma, Rudra, the masters of speech, even they can't fully comprehend Kamsa's creation because their vision is covered by your Maya.
That's quite a defense. If the gods are covered by illusion, how could a simple hunter, absorbed in his hunt, recognize the Supreme Lord? He's basically saying, your illusion made me do it.
And Konta affirms it. He doesn't condemn him. He immediately tells Jara, don't fear. He confirms the act happened by my own arrangement. Kamai I Konta hi mi.
His own arrangement.
Yes. And then Konta grants Jara the ultimate reward for being that final instrument of fate. Permission to go immediately to the heavenly realm, the abode of the pious.
So Jara gets the instruction, pays his respects, circumambulates Kansa 3 times, and then boom, a celestial airplane, Vimanena, appears and whisks him off to heaven.
Just like that. Kansa's mercy, even in his final moments, it just transcends all normal rules of karma.
Okay, so the hunter's gone, the physical form is wounded. We move to the final moments on Earth, the evacuation of Varaka. Kana is waiting for his charioteer, Daruka.
Right, and Daruka is desperately searching for him. And there's this beautiful, intimate detail in the search. He tracks not just by footprints, but by following the distinct fragrance of tulasi leaves on the breeze. Tulasika modam agrai.
Ah, the tulasi fragrance, the personal marker of the Lord's presence, guiding his closest devotee.
Exactly. And when Daruka finds him, wounded, the devotion and grief just overwhelm him. He falls at Kansa's feet.
His lament, it's described as profound existential loss, right?
Yes. He says that without seeing Kansa's lotus feet, his sight is lost. He finds no peace, just as one is lost in night when the moon is set. It's heartbreaking.
And while Daruka is saying this, the supernatural signs of departure ramp up.
Dramatically. The sources say the chariot, the one with the Garuda emblem, its horses, the flag, and critically, Kanta's divine weapons, the Veed bride money. They all just miraculously rise into the sky and vanish.
Gone.
Gone. The tools of the mission were being recalled. The age of that kind of direct divine intervention was physically ending.
So Kanasa's sitting there, body wounded, weapons gone. And the first thing he does is give Daruka these crucial final instructions for the survivors.
It's twofold: practical necessity and spiritual wisdom. Practically, Daruka must return to Dwaradika, inform the remaining relatives about the destruction, Balarama's departure, Kano's current state.
But he also delivers the prophecy that seals the city's fate.
Kanona's word is absolute here. Daruka and the relatives must not stay in Dwaradika. Why? Because once Kanosi abandons the city, the ocean will soon flood it completely.
Wow, the divine protection holding the sea back was being withdrawn.
Exactly. The escape plan is clear. Gather personal belongings, get Kano's parents, Vasudeva and Devaka, and head straight to Indraprastha, under Arjuna's protection.
And finally, Kanesa gives Daruka his personal spiritual charge, the instruction for how to live when the physical world collapses around you.
This is the ultimate lesson, really. Non-dual wisdom. Daruka must remain steadfast in Kancha's spiritual path, Madharmam Astaya. Be fixed in knowledge, Jananutha. Recognize this entire event, the destruction, the departure as Kencha's Maya creation, and through that understanding, attain peaceful renunciation. Upashamambraja.
Move beyond attachment and grief into wisdom.
That's the final anchor point.
So Daruka, heartbroken but obedient, pays his final respects, places the Lord's feet on his head, and returns to deliver the devastating news to the doomed city.
What an incredible journey we've traced. Through a truly cataclysmic series of events, we went from universal omens and these meticulous rituals to mass intoxication, self-destruction with grass turned iron, the simultaneous quiet departure of the Lords, and that final conversation sealing Varaka's fate and giving that profound spiritual instruction.
Yeah, and the key takeaway nugget here, I think, is that paradox of devotion versus destiny. The Yadus performed the highest devotion, the rituals told them to do, yet it couldn't stop the outcome set by the curse and, well, hastened by divine arrangement.
Exactly. Their end, total and complete, it just confirmed the mission was done. The burden of the earth was removed.
It really underscores that when fate or divine will is set, external actions, even pious ones, they just become part of the mechanism fulfilling it.
The power of illusion ensures that the required mechanism, whether it's a drunken fight or a hunter's arrow, will execute the decree. It has to happen.
Which leads us to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to explore as you leave this deep dive. If the ultimate fate of this great dynasty, favored by the Supreme Lord himself, was determined by a curse and hastened by irresistible delusion, Kansa's Maya, what does this ultimate reliance on destiny imply about our own efforts? About free will applied to solve our mundane daily problems?
Right. If even Kiyansa's own lineage couldn't secate their appointed end, where does true peace, that upashamam, the final instruction to the heartbroken Daruka, where does it ultimately lie? Is it in struggling perpetually against what seems inevitable? Or is it maybe in recognizing the illusion that governs the struggle itself and attaining that detachment, that peaceful renunciation?
Something profound to ponder as you reflect on the ultimate power of fate, illusion, and the final moments of Dvaraka. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We look forward to connecting with you next time.